Hold on. And we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, to the third installment of this still untitled show. Still brought to you somewhere over the Nevada desert. Mateo Heilig is with me from Venice, California. My name is Alex Todd from here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Mateo, how are you doing today?
Brisk,
yes.
brisk.
You know what the high today is in Salt Lake?
27.
22 is the high today.
And you must have the heater on to keep the pipes warm, or no?
We have the heater. Well, it's a long story. I'm in a 2-story duplex, and we have linked heating, so we get shafted. The other day, it was like 79 degrees in my house. It was a bit.
How's that shafted?
That's so hot.
But you're
That's
not
like
paying
uncomfortably
for it,
hot. No, but still, I don't. You know how I
so
am.
you're freeloading off of their heat. I would be in heaven there.
I don't like doing that. I have like moral qualms about using heat.
Oh man, that's too bad.
I'm masochistic that way. You know that about me. Anyhow, we got some fun topics today. Let's dive right into it. What are we starting with, Mateo?
Well, you know what we're starting with. This is the most important sports story of the quarter. Definitely the most important sports story of college football. Ed Orgeron finally has a non-interim head coaching position. He's the guy at LSU. And I'm now a college football fan, and I'm now an LSU fan. So
yeah, it's hard not to love this gentleman. I don't if you folks aren't familiar with Mr. Orgeron. He is he's from Louisiana. He's a homegrown Cajun boy through and through, and you can tell in his voice. And there's he's
been described as a cross between Sylvester Stallone and the Cookie Monster.
I think that is a very adequate description. Yeah, it's fantastic. He did have one head coaching job before, and it was at Mississippi.
USC. Oh, Mississippi.
No, at Mississippi. He was
right.
interim at USC.
Let's tell our listeners that they can get all this information by reading the Sports Illustrated article on him. But we're going to just assume that you guys don't read, so we'll rehash most of it for you.
It's a fantastic article. He was the head coach at Mississippi, was abysmal there.
Not only that, well, maybe you call that abysmal. I call that just there needs to be a movie made about him there ASAP.
Well, apparently needs to be a movie made. The other best part about Ed Orgeron, there's a Hummer commercial that you can find on YouTube that is fantastic.
He gives
among the best commercials ever, really.
He gives Shaq a run for his money in his
screen presence. Yeah.
His screen presence is completely the opposite, but it's so bad that it's good. I don't know if you guys listen to local radio here, but Julius Randle, the Lakers player, I wouldn't call him a star, although he calls himself a star in this commercial. He does a Cadillac dealership commercial, and he's gonna have to work on that pitch a little bit.
Okay, we're getting a little off topic.
I don't know, but Ed Orgeron.
So Ed Orgeron,
he's just as bland in this commercial, but his bland is about as colorful as it gets.
Exactly. He's known as being a fantastic recruiter over the years for USC,
yes,
among other places. That's how he got his job at Mississippi. After that didn't go very well, he went back to being an assistant with a variety of teams, USC among them, where after they fired their coach, he became the interim head coach. And then they hired Steve Sarkisian.
Stop right there with the
yes.
What do you think makes him a great recruiter? I've got an idea.
It sounds just so in reading the article and seeing this man, the way he talks about, I think there's no veneer with him. You're getting the real Ed Orgeron. Like, you feel that he's a home. And I think you probably, I think a lot of recruiters come into the homes and talk to the moms and dads and sons, and it can feel like a sales pitch. I feel like the sales pitch with Ed Orgeron doesn't feel like a sales pitch. It feels like he actually means it, and he wants you to be like a part of his family.
That's what you think is getting them?
Yeah.
The dad's going, now that coach, that's a straight shooter if I've ever seen one. You're going to LSU. No,
No, you don't
have
think
you
so?
seen? No. Here's what I have in my mind.
Yeah.
The Bernie Mac scene from Ocean's 11 where he's negotiating a better deal on the van.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
By the way, can we pour one out for Bernie Mac?
Yeah. Hey,
Sorry, continue.
old Ed is going in there. He's locking hands with the recruit. Now you're going to LSU, aren't you, son? And he's just starts squeezing harder, and then eventually he's got to.
He's got to give in because his hand might just break if not.
It is.
No, I really do think it's like a genuine. He seems like a genuine nice guy.
Except when he takes his shirt off and threatens to offer and wants to fight his players.
Right. That was one of the things at Ole Miss that did not go so well.
But on the other side, he did have victory milkshakes.
He did. And then had practice after.
Before practice. Yeah.
That was my favorite.
That one
of the players was like, that did not work out well.
I was ready to
win sprints after milkshake.
I was ready to enroll at grad school and try and get on that team for victory milkshakes. He could have me playing linebacker.
Well, I don't think that's a team that would win many.
Are you kidding? If you hold a victory milkshake in front of me,
that man will run through a brick wall for a victory milkshake.
Yeah, maybe I'd have to settle for kicker.
But yeah, it's a feel-good story. He's from Louisiana. He went to LSU. He then got invited on Les Miles. He was heartbroken after he didn't get the job at USC. He was interim head coach. He coached them to some pretty good wins. They decided to go with somebody else.
He totally turned them around. They were garbage.
Yeah, they were a terrible. Like
Lane
most
Kiffin.
USC teams, they had a bunch of. It wasn't Lane Kiffin. It was that other guy.
Stark.
No, it was Clay. Oh no, it was Lane Kiffin. Sorry. They hired Sark instead of him. But yeah, like most USC teams, it was like loaded with talent, and then like was terrible for like the first 4 games, and then turned it around, and then everybody said, "Oh my God, they're the best team in the country." I don't know how they get to that conclusion, but maybe I'm showing my USC bias, so we won't go down that road.
The article claims that is it Clay Helton?
No, that's a new guy. Yeah.
Who's the athletic director?
Oh, I forget. Anyway,
well, he didn't want to be seen with Ed Orgeron in the Bel Air Country Clubs. That was the
right. Which, to be honest, he's not wrong.
I'd want him in my country club, but
right.
I guess these guys aren't. I'd take him over. Sarkisian. You don't want that guy to.
Well, evidently you don't, because he didn't do very well. Yeah, so Ed Orgeron picked himself up by his bootstraps, went to LSU as a D-line coach. When Les Miles got fired this year, which in a second I think I want to talk about whether he should have gotten fired in the first place. Anyway, Ed Orgeron becomes interim head coach, and then they talk about possibly trying to hire the Houston coach instead of Ed, and then they don't, and then Ed Orgeron finally becomes a head coach at his alma mater. And how do you think? What do you think is going to be the future of LSU with Ed Orgeron, Mateo?
Like 70-0.
70-0. He's calling it right now, ladies and gentlemen. The next 7 years, LSU will be national champions. You heard it here first.
He's shown an ability to adapt too. He changed the victory milkshakes from pre-practice to post-practice. He got rid of the rule that every football personnel has to dive for a fumble.
I love that one too. I think it stopped when it was like an assistant like dislocated his shoulder or something.
Man, I sure wouldn't want to fight him for a fumble if I'm one of those.
No. Let's also say that Ed Orgeron is like one of those. I think the best way to describe it in a cliche is that he's a bear of a man. Like he's
an enlightened bear, though. He learns from his mistakes.
He's an enlightened, but physically, I mean, he's like a bear of a man. He's just a giant mass of muscle, flesh, and bone. And So yeah, Mateo thinks they're going to do really well. I tend to agree. I think it's going to be great. I think you can have a cult of personality in college football. That's what you need. In the end, it comes down to not who's a great coach, but recruiting, we know, is like one of the most important things in football, in college football. If he can recruit really well, which he has been known to do, I think he will do quite well. And I think he's a smart man. He's learned from his mistakes, at Ole Miss. I think it'll be great. I think
smart. I don't know about smart enough. Sure.
Well, but I think so one of the things that he says in this Sports Illustrated piece is basically how he didn't trust anybody to do anything at LSU, and he tried to do everything himself. At Ole Miss, excuse me. And when he was a head coach, and now he's learned from that a lot, and he's much better at delegating responsibilities and letting people, letting his assistant coaches actually do their jobs instead of trying to do everything.
He continues to evolve, which is
that's right.
That's what the great ones do. That's what Popovich has been doing.
It's true.
I can't really put that in any other sport, but we should note that I think Coach O is going to have another appearance on our show when we do coaches that could probably still play better than their worst player.
Ooh, that would be a great.
Unfortunately, the death of Tony Gwynn has taken away my main number one on that, but
yeah,
I'm sure there's other ones out there.
Well, baseball's basically, those big guys were fat when they were hitting home runs anyway, so they can just still do it when they're like just 20 years later. I don't think that really matters. I think the Ryan brothers are probably up there pretty high.
I think they would break.
Are you kidding me? They're crazy and they're huge. That's a pretty good recipe for playing defense in the NFL.
Are they tall though, or are they just little?
No, they're like 6'5".
Oh, okay. So
the one that's not Rex, the other one, one who is like legitimately insane and is a defensive coordinator, Rob. That man, he like tackles his own players.
It's a shame that they're not winners.
It is a shame.
That would be something. I think they should be Raiders coaches. Although Jack Del Rio is a pretty good Raiders coach. He makes some ballsy, kind of scratch your head calls that work out. I feel like that's Raiders football.
That is Raiders football. Any last words on Coach O?
No, I think we've covered him.
We're excited for some Go Tigers football.
And advertisers, get your phones ready. Get those.
Ready.
Open your wallets.
I don't know if Hummer still makes phones. If Hummer still makes cars, but if they do,
they definitely do.
You got a pitch man. All right. So moving on to kind of what I alluded to earlier, the idea. One thing I want to talk about is this idea that sports fan bases seem to always be disappointed. It's kind of ridiculous because if you think about it, there's only one champion.
Stupid Lakers only won 3 in a row. Why couldn't they?
Yeah, the Lakers are terrible. Fire the coach. It's like, well, you're not going to be good every year. And I feel like you get that in college football, particularly. You have a place like LSU who has been a solid program over the last 10 years or so. Now, I guess, fires the guy who made them into a good program. I guess that's not true. Nick Saban won a championship before with LSU before Les Miles got there. But, Les Miles has been the face of your program for the last 10 years or so. And you're going to fire him if he doesn't, have a great season. And he does not give it a terrible season. They were basically had a even record halfway through the year.
Well, he'd shown an inability to evolve. He hasn't adopted the spread offense that has transformed college football into.
But it's the SEC. You don't even need to play offense anyway. Haven't we seen that? They played a 6-9 football game a couple years ago, and that was the championship. That's not good football, okay? I'm sorry. That's called.
That's why you got to spread.
Not being able to pass the ball. But no one else in the SEC is doing it, so he's keeping up with everybody else. Anyhow, I think. I'm happy Coach O is head coach of the LSU Tigers. I don't particularly think that I don't know. I don't think Les Miles' firing was warranted.
Yeah.
And we see it in a bunch of sports. I mean, what was the example you had, Mateo?
Well, the Grizzlies seem to
Yeah.
just have a revolving door of coaches that don't really make them better or worse. They might just be cheap.
Well, maybe, but if there's no way they're just signing 1-year contracts with their coaches.
That could be.
But they're having. I guess my thing is, do the Memphis Grizzlies do they legitimately? I know they're going to say they believe that they're going to win the national or the NBA championship every year, but there's no way they can actually believe that.
They have a chance. They were. If you remember, when the Warriors won their championship, they were up 2-1 on the Warriors, down Mike Conley and Tony Allen, or at least Tony Allen.
Yeah,
they gave them a run for their money.
Sure, but I guess there's a difference between thinking we have a chance if everything goes well and
I think they have a chance.
I guess I don't know. Maybe I love the underdog story as much as the next person, but I feel like in college football, there's legitimately only 5 teams that can win a championship. Same with the NBA. Realistically, we're pulling from the Bucks are not going to win the championship this year. I'm sorry, it's just not. As much as I love them, the odds of them winning an NBA championship are really slim. Same with the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm sorry.
No. There are 4 or 5 teams that could come out of the West.
I think that's optimistic.
No,
have we seen that? Look who's won the championships in the last 20 years in basketball. It's changing a little bit now.
4 or 5 teams.
Right, over 20 years though, Mateo. And those are franchises that are it's basically the Lakers, the Heat.
No, there have been tons of teams coming out of the West. You've had Lakers, Jazz, Supersonics.
Oh, who have made it to the finals, yeah, but
yeah, well, that's what counts. That's what matters.
No, yeah, I guess no one's firing their coach if they make it to the national championship game or the finals.
Some of these firings, though, you know what? I've kind of poo-pooed them, but they've worked out. I was against the Rockets firing Kevin McHale because, I mean, who doesn't want to see Frankenstein on the sideline? But they seem to be better off.
Burn on Kevin McHale.
I mean,
watch out. Oh, man.
That was just a sight I like to see.
Although it is really fun to see James Harden basically not even have to show the pretense of possibly playing defense. He can just devote everything to offense, and his coach is okay with it.
Yeah, and they're winning. Mike D'Antoni's doing a fine job.
Yeah.
So it is about fit. I mean, Byron Scott, I don't know if anybody was up in arms over that firing, but it was obviously the right thing to do. Look at where they are now.
Yeah.
Unless we're going to say that the blockbuster additions of Luol Deng and Timothy
Mozgov
have transformed them. They definitely have played a part, but
no, I think Kobe leaving is probably
yes, definitely.
They're oh, we can actually
everybody else is getting better.
Right, that obviously helps. They get an extra
look at the Pistons. They're not the Pistons, the Timberwolves.
Yeah,
they brought everybody back. They're a young team, supposed to be getting better. They got a new coach, and they're not really any better.
No. Yet. Then again, it was harder. It was hard to get worse than the Lakers were last year.
Yeah, that's true.
Pretty sad affair. But yeah, back to the fan bases wanting to be up in arms all the time. I mean, I think people need to stop firing their coaches after they make it to the third round of the playoffs. Like when the Bulls fired Tom Thibodeau all those years back. You made it to the playoffs. And you won a round of the playoffs. If you're exceeding your expectations, and you should be reasonable about your expectations, then don't fire your coach. Same thing with the Memphis Grizzlies. What are you doing? Do you honestly think it's going to get better? Are you disappointed?
I think the Memphis Grizzlies are kind of an enigma. I'm almost positive that they want a bargain on that coach.
Yeah.
Because it's never they just don't renew the contract, I think. I don't know if they're firing.
Yeah, maybe. Anyhow, I mean, I think it is worse in college. I mean, you have an
They have
example.
to feed Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph.
Yeah.
That's no.
But so, for example, like college, it makes me think of like Texas just fired Charlie Strong after 3 years, which I think is unfair because you should at least get the opportunity to have your recruits, your first class of recruits, go all the way through a program before you can gauge whether you're actually doing a good job or not.
That is a fair point.
They didn't even give him that opportunity, and he's out the door.
Who'd they bring in after him?
The guy from Houston, Tom Herman, I believe his name is.
So that's a total. That's a wild card bet, right? Houston's been good, but
they've been good, but
running
like
Texas is a whole new.
Right. I mean, I guess the argument they make is like, well, you know, he knows the high schools in Texas better. It's like, okay, I really doubt that's, you know, I mean, they say recruiting is everything again in college football, and that was one of the things that he was going to bring him was he knows how to recruit well in Texas. But I don't know. It seems silly.
Whatever happened to the basketball? Like every year there was not every year, but for the past couple of years, maybe not the immediate past, but in the last 5 years, there's been not a Final Four coach, but an NCAA tournament coach from some tiny school that just ran their way to the Sweet 16 or the Final Four. Like I think it was West Virginia, and then that Florida school that the USC now USC coaches at.
Oh yeah, FGCU, Florida Gulf Coast University.
I guess that's different though, because those guys it's one thing to win at Texas, or not at Texas, at Houston, where you're in your own little, you're not playing the big boys,
right?
But if you're the coach of Florida International, or whatever, or West Virginia, and you make it to the Sweet 16 or the Final Four, you're beating the big boys. I mean, you're coaching, you're demonstrating that you can do it.
Right. And I guess in college basketball, it's a little bit easier than in college football, because the problem is in college football, I guess you can win if you're winning a conference championship, then you're happy. But like, there's no real like conciliatory prize. Like it just, it drives me crazy when, yeah. I also think if a coach has done enough for you, in the example of Les Miles, part of me thinks like they're infallible. Like, do you really think, and granted, I think Coach O is a bad example, but some of these things is like, unless you want to just have a revolving door of coaches over the next like decades, why are you, it's better to stay with this guy who at least has some things in place than go with someone else who has to start from scratch again.
Well, how old was Les Miles? He seemed to be, maybe were they just?
No, I don't think he was old.
He wasn't old. He wasn't the Steve Spurrier situation.
No.
Where he just went halfway through the season and said, I'm hanging it up.
No.
I'm done.
No, I don't think
he was my second favorite coach to at Orgeron.
Steve Spurrier?
He was a quote machine.
Just because he was called the old ball coach?
The old ball coach. Oh, man. You look up his quotes. He's got some gold in there.
Plus, they're all said with that southern twang, so it's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, God. He was talking about there was a fire at the football dorm at Auburn, and he said, "Oh, it's a shame they didn't color the last 15 books. 15 of those books weren't colored yet."
Oh, burn.
He was talking when Jadeveon Clowney got arrested for a speeding ticket. He said, I didn't know Clowney's car went that fast. He doesn't have one of them fancy cars like them boys down at Florida State."
Oh. Steve Spurrier. Okay, anything else on the idea of...
Let's move on to the most exciting basketball player.
Our last topic, Mateo.
Of the week.
Yes.
This is an old one. So actually, a lot has happened to JR since then. I'm sure you guys saw the clip where of the Cavs lost to the Bucks, where sneaky Jason Terry what upped J.R. Smith mid-play, and J.R. felt obligated to go say what's up, and
I mean, it'd be rude not to.
Hug his boy.
That's what people don't understand. I'm gonna, defend JR here for a second. Him and Jason Terry probably go way back. And so it would have been, I mean, he wouldn't have been able to, show his face around certain parts of certain places if he didn't go say hi to Jason Terry.
He sure didn't want to show his face after the game. Did you see what he was wearing?
Yeah, he was wearing like a baklava. Or no, a balaclava. I always get those two mixed up.
Balaclava. Baklava is the Greek.
Baklava is the delicious pastry.
Yeah.
So
anyways,
he was not wearing a pastry on his face.
Mid-embrace, JR's man cut to the hoop for an open dunk.
for easy two.
And the Cavs lost that game. So
yeah,
not if it had an impact or not. If I was JR though, I would have, and if I was the league, I would have been more mad at Jason Terry. I mean, yeah, he's supposed to know better, but that's one of those cheap things. That's like
you think so? I don't know.
That's like the guy at the pickup game who's not on your team, who always calls for the ball when you're passing.
Well, just don't be stupid and go say hi to him.
But yeah. But what about I would have had no problem of J.R. Smith like socking Jason Terry. I would have suspended Jason Terry and maybe I'd suspended both of them, but I would suspend Jason Terry too.
No.
I don't want to condone violence here, but
so what's JR been up to since then? You said
he hurt his knee, but luckily he's fine.
Yeah,
luckily. He hasn't been playing great, but
no. He's an interesting fellow, that JR Smith. The man has been given more second chances than anyone I can think of.
No, well, he didn't do anything he was never that bad. He's like Nick Young.
Dude, when he was with the Knicks, he would go out and just he was a known party animal. And I obviously being in Cleveland, I think that's been tempered some. And so I think it's good for him that he's in Cleveland because he isn't, pressured or doesn't feel the pressure to go out and get cray every night. But
yeah, and if any of you men out there are looking for dating advice, J.R. Smith has some good lines.
Oh yeah, does he give some good dating advice?
No, he just leads by example. I believe his opener on Instagram when he sees a fly female is, quote, "You trying to get the pipe?"
Oh man, that is bad. Oh, JR. Well, my impression of him, or my what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, it's not going great for my impression of.
Come on, you can't have a basketball league of upstanding mama's boys.
Oh, they don't have to be mamas. There's somewhere between being a mama's boy and asking someone if they want, quote, the pipe.
That's sure better than Matt Barnes, who has to punch everything he sees.
Yeah, well, Matt Barnes is...
But I have no problem with him being in the league, too. And maybe it'll just be a topic for another show. But this is something that just I'm fighting myself on the inside with all the time is at what point do you just want a great athlete who can play versus an upstanding citizen?
Yeah, I mean... Who was it that famously said, I'm not trying to be a role model or something?
That's Charles Barkley.
Yeah. Sir Charles. And I mean, yeah, it's the same thing as art. Do you need your artists to be good people for you to...
Well, they have it easier. Artists have it easier. They don't have a commissioner that they have to answer to.
Yeah, but yeah. So I will agree that they do get fined for some ridiculous things. Some of those rules are just not...
if a felon can't play in the National Football League, how is he supposed to employ himself?
Oh, wow, Mateo, that's...
Well, felons can play in the National Football League, so...
I mean, didn't Ray Lewis kill a guy? I mean, I believe we know that for a fact.
Ooh, you don't want to... Well, luckily we don't have such wide syndication that Ray Lewis is...
Gonna come after me.
Libel lawyers are gonna come after you, but
I don't think we have any syndication. I believe you can just say whatever you want in YouTube. In the post-fact Trump America,
No, you can't.
you can
That's
just
the
say
problem.
literally whatever you want.
He threatened to sue, or she, Melania, threatened to sue whoever was speculating that young Trump had autism based on his movements, and that was too much of bullying.
Oh. Bullying, that's my favorite thing, is Melania Trump wants to like make bullying come down. It's like, do you know who you're married to?
Yeah, maybe she gets bullied a lot. Maybe she's a victim.
Like, I get bullied every day, and I don't want anybody else to have to go through that.
There's no way she's immune to it.
No. I wonder if they well, let's not go down the rabbit hole. I wonder if they even talk to each other. Pizzagate? What's Pizzagate?
Oh, you're lucky you don't know. Don't look it up.
I'm hungry.
Don't look it up.
Right around lunchtime.
Can you eat pizza these days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm my own man, Matteo. I can eat whatever I want.
Can you have a pepperoni pizza?
No. I could take the pepperoni off.
That's true. Don't look up Pizzagate, whatever you do. You're better off not knowing.
I just love when Donald Trump tweets stuff, how at the end he always writes like sad exclamation point, or what was the one with Boeing? It's like cancel this order exclamation point. Like Boeing's gonna read that and like, oh shoot, guys, he just canceled the order. Twitter, it's how you communicate with people now.
It's working.
I guess he's president of the United States, so
what more could you ask for? Like, you know.
Well, I think he could ask for a lot more. I don't think he's super keen on being the president. Anyway, I think we've hit our time. So thank you again to Justin Yannick for listening. And shoot, if anyone else is listening.
One of our videos had 8 views, I saw.
Really?
Yeah.
I would like to ask how you got here. If you're lost, I feel bad for you. But yeah, next time, more topics that we'll have fun banter about. Until then, my name's Alex or Todd.
And I'm Matteo Heilig.
And we
are out.
We are out. All right. Take care, y'all.